horse drifted alarmingly in the betting, was, fenced in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a warm welcome. It's that time of week again. It is, of course, the Bar Steward's Sunday Sermon. Yes, and what an action-packed show we've got for you this week. Lots and lots to talk about. Obviously, the big racing this weekend. Before we get on, just introduce my favourite two partners in crime who I get to do this every week with. It's John Lang and Lorne Malvo on Twitter. Chris, good evening, chaps.
Good evening.
Evening, everyone.
Plenty to go at, and if you saw John's question thread earlier on Twitter, it wasn't totally shit, and we've certainly got plenty to talk about. So without further ado, let's start off where Chris goes for a shit, says it's boring.
I've had one and it was like shitting a razor blade. I think I've really badly constipated, honestly. My flag's like the arse of flag of Japan, my arsehole. It's dreadful.
Everyone's delighted to hear that.
Yeah.
Right, let's look at the racing this weekend that took place, John. It started off on Saturday with the Betfair Chase, the Morgiana, Ballyburn winning the Novice Chase on Saturday. The Betfair Chase, John, was it really a great spectacle?
It depends what you class as a great spectacle. I mean, after the horrors of the previous week, seeing 3 mile chasers finishing at walking speed, it doesn't fill you with joy, does it, really? That got to the bottom of them two principles, isn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, in recent times, it has produced very testing ground on many occasions. We've seen the likes of Bristol Demai slogging through the mud in that race.
Does anything ever follow up that wins it?
To be honest, I ain't looked, but it's one of them, and it can't possibly see a horse turning out within a couple of months and running to scratch. The Skelton horse in second, absolutely knackered, wasn't it? Royal Pagaille sort of looked in a bit of trouble at the last as Grey Dawning looked to be gaining the upper hand. Didn't really meet it well, and then Royal Pagaille just does what he does. And
he kept going at the same rate he was going till the last. But I think the difference was Grey Dawning just curled up in a ball.
Yeah, it's not my thing. I don't know what National Hunt fans think to that or thoughts of the race.
Well, if you think that's good, I have a nice line in sadomasochism magazines I can help them subscribe to.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
No one is under any illusion about that.
So anyway, the principles in that, we're not interested. There's no bets to be interested that ran in that. The Morgiana, the Grade 1 hurdle over in Ireland on Saturday.
That was lively, wasn't it?
Yes, somewhat surprisingly, or not in some cases, that State Man was turned over. I remember you, John, saying after it won the champion, you weren't blown away by it, and he's okay, but he's not a world beater, and the mare just turned him away.
I mean, the thing is as well, the mare was a bit of a letdown at the Feds last year, wasn't she?
I think she got outpaced. Yeah. I think she's more of a slugger because of the slowly run nature of that race. I just think when the taps were turned on, I think she just struggled. Like you saw how she dug that one out against State Man. She just absolutely nitty gritty, just
maintained. Yeah,
thou shall not pass. I'm not so sure if Cheltenham turns up good ground. I mean, again, it's boring, isn't it? They're bottling the champion. They're saying they're going for the mares, and it's like... Ugh.
Another example that the mares shouldn't be there, isn't it, really?
I think so. I get it for breeding purposes, but at the end of the day, it's just weak. But we've said it about 3 and 4, 5 day festivals. You've got to go 3 days because you've got to have the top quality taking on the top quality. I just want to comment on Ballyburn, John. He's been quoted at 2-1 after winning at 2-11 in his Novice Chase over, I think it's 2 mile 3 furlongs. He's been quoted at 2-1 for the Arkle. I'm quite in shock. I don't see him as an Arkle horse.
The worry for me would be whether they went for the Arkle, to be honest. He doesn't strike me as a rattling fast 2 mile chaser.
They didn't campaign him like that over hurdles, did they?
No. And I think he's a lovely jumping horse. I was very impressed with him yesterday, but it didn't scream Arkle to me, really.
But if they do turn up, you could argue, I'm not saying I am, you could argue that 2-1 isn't too bad a price because he'll scare loads off, won't he? You could see that being a tiny field, couldn't you?
I think the only way
I think the
only way he'll turn up, Chris, is if he wins his next 2 chases
over
2 miles.
Yeah, true enough. But if he does, you can see him scaring the field off.
To this trip, I think he's 10-1 to run.
I see him more as at least a 2.5 miler, maybe a 3 miler rather than 2.
They're hunched about with the 2.5 mile novice now, haven't they? That's a handicap now, so he'll be carrying 14 stone.
But this is the problem, isn't it? This is the innate problem which we've seen. I'm sure we go on to with the whole Henderson thing. Is that the targets for these horses are so fluid that anti-post is almost redundant, isn't it, for the festival? Because you're kind of half guessing what the targets are, and they ain't going to tell you, are they? I mean, they're experts in double speak, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of burnt fingers following in these impressive reappearances, and then 3 months later find out they're not even running in that particular race. So it's just fraught with difficulty, isn't it? It's just so much double speak.
I think me and John's made our concerns
Yeah.
known. I really do think if he was mine, he wouldn't be going anywhere near a 2 mile chase. But I just think his engine is suited to much more a test of stamina than the Arkle. I know they usually go with good gallop in the Arkle, and it can be a test at the 2 miles. But I still think he's going to be a better horse when asked to do a gallop in the Champs and go over 3 miles, etc. But look,
Yeah, I think maintaining is what he's all about. I don't think he's a turn of speed horse.
No, he's a very powerful galloper, big engine, great
Yeah.
jumper, likable horse, but 2 miles not for me. I'm not saying he wouldn't win an Arkle. If they did, he might get away with it. That's not his optimum
No,
distance.
you'd be
for
looking
sure.
he's harder for him.
Absolutely. On to that then, the John Durkan. Stephen Thomas has been on and said, let's be positive for once. Yes,
Wow.
we do like a moan on this show.
Crazy yourself.
He says that the John Durkan was the best jumps race he's seen for years. Are we witnessing a change of the guard in the staying chase division? Just to remark upon the John Durkan, what I admire about the Irish is the fact that they don't shy away from competition and they're not bothered if they get beat. Unlike Nicky Henderson, which we'll come on to in a bit, everything's got to turn up 100% and win. That chase today, it was a fascinating clash where you got two of the best staying chasers from last season taking on two of the top novices from last season, and what an affair it turned out to be. My opinion of changing of the guard, I won't be so sure about that. The only man that'll know is probably Willie Mullins on how fit he had his horses, how fit Factor File was the winner, how fit Galloping Deschamps was. Whatever he says to the press, there's only him that will actually know how cherry ripe those two were. So very difficult, I think, to come to some sort of conclusion, but I'm still in the Galloping Deschamps will muller them in the spring. I think he'll take the same path, the same 5 races he ran in last year, he'll do again. He'll be turn up at the Savills. I mean, the Savills, John, at Leopardstown over the Christmas period is going to be probably another race to savour, where they might even clash swords again. So anyway, I'll get your view, John, on the John Durkan.
I thought the first two benefited from third and fourth knocking spots off each other from a fair way out.
Quite possibly, yes.
The fact that they kept out of it from, say, 7-6 out,
Yep.
turning in, I think that benefited them. And you've got to bear in mind as well that third and fourth are operating in a race that's considerably short of the best distance, so the tempo is not entirely sure to suit. And the fact that they've been pushed to go at that tempo would be harder than if they both sat there cruising, even if they were going clear, I mean, the fact that they've been forced to maintain a high tempo and then being challenged by horses that have kept out of it, I think it could be a very misleading result.
I do like the winner as well, the Factor File. I think he's one of those as well. I only think he only just does enough when he hits the front, which I like for longevity in a staying chaser. I think he's a really nice horse. But let's be clear here, that was it's a prep. Even though it's a grade 1 planning the season out.
Australians Tower at 170 there?
No. If you're saying that probably Galopana's been left sort of a stone short in terms of fitness, then you'd be generous at giving the winner any more than 160, 162, I think. So for me, it's a pinch of salt race. I think there'll be people out there that might take a little bit more notice of the actual result. There's only one man that will know. It's Willie Mullins himself, and obviously the trainer of the runner-up, Mangan. He will know how fit that was and how straight that was. So again, as punters in the form book, I would take that with a pinch of salt, John. Would you agree?
As I say, I think it could be a misleading result, so I'm not banking on anything concrete coming out of that race.
Yeah, certainly no changing of the guard, I don't think, for me and John anyway, in terms of, at this moment in time, obviously there'll be more evidence unfolding And the Leopardstown Christmas meeting should be an absolute banger if some of those and others turn up in the Savills there over Christmas.
Could have the Lincoln the day after that, really, couldn't they?
You'd probably get better weather.
Well, you know. It's going to be it for the Sticks, isn't it, once the Savills is done?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they have the Dublin Racing Festival, but coming on to one of your questions, you said Armageddon, is it better than a 3-month festival build-up?
Well, yeah.
I
was thinking about it the other night when Putin was on banging his desk and saying, I'm going to yoke you cunts. I was thinking, well, is it that bad, really? Because this is fucking awful, isn't it, really?
They talk about it incessantly, week in, week out. Everything gets a Cheltenham quote. Everything gets a, oh, well, will this win at Cheltenham? You know, it's like, well, hang on a minute. There's like 3 or 4 races before that.
Whereas if the eight of us fighting over the last rat to Barbie show, I think it's a bit more interesting, isn't
it? Knocking somebody out to eat a rat.
Yeah.
I get it. I get the point of view. Me and John wish we could go into one of them, like, you know, like them, the science fiction film.
Cryo
chamber or something, where you like get frozen into sleep for 3 months and then alarm goes off and it's...
Walt Disney, isn't he? Walt Disney's head is still cryonically frozen, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, it is in some lab somewhere. Yeah, I read somewhere that Walt Disney's head is still it's sort of cryogenically frozen. I think on the following the wishes in his will that should a sort of a cure or a means be found to grow a human body, he'd come back. So in some lab in California has got Walt Disney's head.
You know what they should do? They should stick it on a West Island Terrier and wake the cunt up. There you go. How would you like that for a wacky animal character?
It's quite scary, but I think that's the thing with AI. I think they'll develop AI, obviously, to a ridiculous level where you've got literally like walking people that are robots. And I reckon that it'll be that day they'll probably stick his head on one of them. You know, here's Walt. Then they'll find out he were in the equivalent of Jimmy Savile's club.
Yeah, certainly a big pedo ring, more than chatting up again.
Yeah, the Mickey Mouse Club has got a different meaning all of a sudden.
No wonder Mickey Mouse spoke in a high voice. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Apple Plain, Mr. Comiscus.
Absolutely. Yes. We've got the run on every podcast being totally Apple Plain.
Family friendly.
Coming on to a topic which most of you will be completely bored of. I am to a degree already, but we have to touch on it because obviously that's what it is, and then we're done with it. Constitution Hill. Wow. Yeah, it's the last time we talk about him this season. I think it's barred on this podcast after this show. You've all been on with a lot of comments on this. Luke Tucker says, if you're Henderson, surely you must be bored shitless constantly talking and giving an update about Constitution Hill. Jane Foy says, are you folks suspicious that dear Nicky might be confused lying about what the vet said? And Ice Cold Cube, good with the media. I'm fucking sick of so-called journalists like the ridiculously dressed Dave Yates categorising racing people this way. Who gives a fuck? Are they good at their jobs is all that's important, says Ice Cold Cube. Very well put. Yeah, slot on bar steward's sermon for you like that. So talking about Constitution Hill, we can do a Chris Pull. We love a Chris Pull, don't we? We love it. We love it. So Chris Pull, I apologise for this, but the bar steward's Edge service managed to obtain some information before anyone else. The Bush Telegraph was ringing that morning with info and provided meals for camp, as Constitution Hill we knew was being taken out in favour of Sir Gino taking his place. And we duly advised the 8-1 available for the Fighting Fifth. If you're not an Edge subscriber, why not? When you get bits like that loses all your accounts, gets you barred, why on earth would you not want to join us to get your accounts barred, but at least have the value? You've got the value. So anyway, Constitution Hill, obviously the main topic of subject is Nicky Henderson. I think he's a stranger to the truth, John.
I just think he gets pestered a lot for information about the arse because it's like stories about the trainer's title, the jockey's title. We have a plethora of bone-idle racing journalists in this country who don't want to dig a story out. They want to rehash the same old shite week after week after week. he's quite accommodating with the press, and he'll always talk to them. So they'll be ringing him up, oh, I don't know what to write in my column this week. No, I'll ring Nicky fucking Henderson and say how Constitution Hill's doing. And that's the way it works. I mean, I'm a little bit worried about you saying we won't mention this house again till Cheltenham, because you can guarantee it'll come out just after Christmas. He's been having an affair with Lady Starmer or something like that. And we'll have to broach the subject. Personally, I'm not interested. I said 2 years ago when all this cotton wool malarkey started, I said rather than having fans, you'll have more people actively resenting the horse before long. And I think it's getting to that stage now.
Yep.
And it's not the horse's fault. It's nobody's fault, really. It's human nature, and you just get sick of these horses that are like this. I'm sick of it. I understand plenty of other punters will be. I have no intention of playing on the champion hurdle market. I wish it had all just fuck off.
Yes, I mean it's confected drama, isn't it? And I think he's a hostage to fortune in by way of his the sponsorship of the yard. I think with Unibet, and I think he's under pressure to provide updates on a regular basis. But it kind of reminds me of like the sort of person that buys some shares for a long time hold and then monitors the share price every hour. Oh no, it's gone down. What shall I do? Oh no, it's gone up again. And it's kind of like every day there's a different update. It'd be better off if he'd have said, yeah, we weren't that happy with that piece of work. We're not sure what to do next. That's it. And then, not declare the horse and that's it. But these kind of daily updates, I think, are counterproductive because people are bored now. And it invites sort of suggestions and he's not being straight, etc., etc. And I think it's a terrible relationship with the media, actually, really bad.
Chris, didn't you have 6 tenors?
Yes, I did, and that
you?
resulted in no more bog for you, no more this, no more that, on an account with Coral that wins overall lifetime winnings of 119 quid, no more than a tenner bet. So the idea. And I won't go on about this because everybody's restricted, but the idea that they want £10 punters, well, they don't really. Actually, what they want are people that lose. There's no recreational punt. They just want people that will show a loss.
Still quid a day,
quid.
isn't it? 365 model.
Exactly. It's 100 quid profit, and it's like, oh, you can't have this, you can't have that. I mean, come on, 60 quid. What? And and it hasn't won. And who knows if it'll turn up? You just don't know, do you? But that's the state of bookmaking, the algorithms today. But I do think his regular updates are counterproductive. People are bored, and it invites suggestions that he's not being straight. And I just think he just needs to be quiet about it and let the horse do the talking or not. That's it.
And just to report as well, the disgraceful Tory councillor that sometimes pops on this show and writes for us, Councillor Andrew Woodman. Absolute disgrace, this. These Tory MPs that are getting charged by the Gambling Commission, which that'll end up a disaster, by the way, because they've got no evidence on these MPs. They've broken the rules, in terms of like betting on other opponents to win the seat. Well, they're just edging the bets, in essence. But Councillor Woodman, an absolute acting on insider trading. I went to go to Andrew John Rhodes' Twitter, but he's deleted it. And I was going to message him on Twitter and say, Councillor Woodman has absolutely insider trading. He's had £50 at 15-2 on various accounts on Sagina. I just think this is absolutely disgraceful that a Tory councillor, again, John, once they smell blood, it's like lying to a gazelle.
It's second nature for them to help themselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's second nature.
Insider trading there from Councillor Woodman. I've highlighted that. And he only won his seat because he took the dog round, if you remember. The winning move was taking the dog round to all the constituents. And you know what the British public are like. Oh, what's his name? That's it. You've got the vote.
He lost a couple of votes when he told him it was called Heinrich, though, didn't
he? Yeah, what's his name? Heinrich, yeah.
Actual name is Reggie, after the craze.
Yeah.
So moving on, we bought a Constitution Hill. Another interesting thing in racing this weekend, obviously, it was the Jap Cup job. This was incredible. 15,000, that's more than Kempton gets for the King George on Boxing Day, turned up for Auguste Rodin's retirement ceremony.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, I didn't actually see the retirement ceremony. I'm assuming he was shuffled off onto a barge or something and punted off into into the setting sun in the distance or something, you know.
I don't know. I didn't see it myself.
But Ed O'Brien seemed to be well impressed with the Jap racing, didn't he? He kept saying unbelievable, fantastic, and all the words he was using to describe City of Troy. He unpacked them again, didn't he, and applied them to Jap racing.
I'm surprised that apparently he used to stand at Coolmore. I'd have thought where he might just end up a national hunt sire if he does. Being a son of Deep Impacts, I thought he might stand out there.
I thought he was.
Have I got that wrong? Is that
I
what's
thought
happening?
he was. I could be wrong.
That's probably why it's linked at retirement ceremony, maybe.
I mean, I couldn't have him as a national hunt sire. I
No.
don't think he's robust enough.
To be honest, I don't think he's got it in his head. I'd be worried buying Auguste Rodin's offspring because we saw his inconsistencies
He
and
looked
the
really
ability.
fucking Japan Cup, didn't he? I mean, to say
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had a ceremony for him after that, I mean, a lot of people would have wanted him burnt at the stake.
Well, you never know out there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right, moving on. A little bit of a breaking news here. We do like a bit of breaking news. The recent passing of John Wade, Sedgefield's stalwart of many years, and certainly one of the most colourful owners we've had in the Northeast in terms of national hunt horses. They are going to disperse the lot, including all ownership of everything they have. And that means Rebecca Menzies, who has at least, to my knowledge, 15 trained by John Wade and probably more in terms of store horses, etc. She's going to lose the lot in that respect. So, not a good time for Rebecca Menzies' yard, John, there.
No, it's a kick in the Carnegies, isn't it?
It is. Rebecca Menzies, I like her. I think they're okay. They do okay with what they get. And
yeah, she's someone
it's a
that's making
shame.
a good fist of things, and they could do without this very much.
Absolutely. A subject that I wanted to bring up this week, racehorse ownership. The reason I wanted to bring it up, because I want to ask the pair of you. We know the betting game in this country is dying on its arse, right? It's absolutely, we're in desperate trouble. And I was going to ask you two, let's say you wanted to stay in racing, and let's say you wanted just an interest in horses. Chris, you've dabbled in racehorse shares in the past. You've enjoyed it. You've had one with me. You've had shares in some of my stuff. We've had a good day at Royal Ascot, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
It's a lot of good fun. If you were to put your money in a syndicate, lots of these clubs going around now or shares, what would you go for?
Well, I wouldn't go for a sort of an organised syndicate. I think the best way, if you are going to do that, I think you'd want to try and find, half a dozen or a dozen like-minded individuals. And do it that way, and I would counsel against sort of asking trainers to find you a horse, because odds law says they'll always find you something they can't sell, and I think that's really the only way to do it. Source it yourself and populate the syndicate with people that you know that are of a like mind. I do think that the organised syndicates serve a purpose for those that want a sort of a social day out and all the bits and pieces. But if you want it for betting, and look, we know the difficulties involved in trying to land a bet. I think if you are going to do that, you're better off trying to get some people together, and then you've got control over it. Because I think the clubs are essentially vehicles for the people that run them, aren't they? Ultimately, the horse is owned by the manager, really, and they decide what goes on, and everybody else is paying the bill. So if it's betting you want, I would steer clear of sort of established organised syndicates, unless, of course, you just want a day out, in which case, there are some very good ones out there.
Exactly. I agree with what you just said. But there are people, obviously, that are interested in the sport but don't have the knowledge of, say, hardened race people. And I'm not just on about professional punters. I'm on about like people that know the game and really experienced with the game. They just want, like you said, a day out, to say, right.
That's fine. Absolutely fine. Yeah.
So, I get what you're saying. John, you know what race ownership's like yourself as well. But if you got a few quid together and you thought, right, I'm going to stick it somewhere, what would you do?
I'll stick it in the bank. There isn't enough. Honest to God, there isn't enough money on the planet to get me involved in racehorse ownership in this climate.
No.
I absolutely would balk at the prospect. No, nay, never, as they say. I just wouldn't have a bad of it. Syndication's no good to me. I'd just drive myself crackers having no say in the matter. No, there'd be absolutely no joy in it for me.
No.
You know, it would be nothing but frustration.
I'm going to run something past you, and I'm surprising myself here, to be honest, because it's something that in the past I have criticised on this show. What Chris has just been on about in terms of corporation syndicates, if you like. So maybe I'm just a fanboy, but Patrick Veach, this must have flown over my head, right? Because I read an article that apparently was the week after the EBO, which explains why I missed it, because I was that fucking hungover that it took me about a week to recover. So I missed this article, and it was in the Racing Post, and I didn't know this. The company that Lydia fronts or does work for, Race Share.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Normally, I'd like go, no, not for me then, right? But little did I know that Veach is buying the horses.
Right.
And this is someone that has had mega success in terms of what he's done as an owner, Lope de Vegas, stuff like that. And given that his contacts are like what we can only dream of, as in Tony Bloom, people like that, I'm just thinking, honestly, and I'm being honest, I'm being totally succinct here. It's not just that 30 quid where you pay 30 quid and there's like 4 million shares and you just get a newsletter and a rosette saying you're an horse owner. They actually do one where it's more intimate, where they limit the shares to 100 per racehorse. Now, if I've got a few quid and I'm approaching retirement or whatever, I would definitely look at this and I'd ring them up. I want 25% of the horse, so I want 25 shares at the cost you're advertising. I'd ring them up and say, right, I want 25% of this. So in other words, I take up majority shareholding, if you like, and I want guaranteed tickets to the races, blah, blah, blah. And I want a bit knocked off. I want a special price because at the end of the day, you're selling 25 shares instantly. And that's what I'd do. They buy good stuff. They buy quality. And you know, I thought I'd never say that. I honestly thought I would never say a major corp in terms of like, you know, company. But if he's buying them, professional punters, look at Chris, John, look at Coos Racing Club, for example.
Yeah,
right?
That's different, isn't it? I didn't know that at all. That surprised me. Really surprised me.
If someone's telling you that Veach's buying them, well, yeah,
Different, yeah, totally different proposition at all. That's you know that's completely different, isn't it?
It's not some Hurray Henry like Harry Herbert or somebody off the streets that's just decided, I'm going to start.
Yeah, bloodstock agent. Yeah.
Once I found that out, I went, fucking, I never knew, never ever knew.
No.
But yeah, I am a fanboy, as obviously listeners will know about Patrick Veach. But then because I'm not full of envy, I like people that do well and do well out of the game. And then I read books on trying to improve and be like them, if you like. Make my game pay the best it can do. So Race Share, have a delve into it, especially if Veach is buying anyway. BHA job. They spotted a non-trier.
Oh, yes.
Am I under a rock? I've missed this.
Evan Williams and Adam Wedge.
Oh, those two. The Welsh Mafia.
Yeah. I watched the race, and for me, I mean, you see a dozen like that every day of the week. And I think that's what makes it stand out more than anything. The fact that they've done one in a week. They haven't even had anybody else in for questioning.
Was it the track day stewards then that did it?
Yeah.
Maybe they just switched the telly on, John, for a race.
By mistake, for a bit of background noise while they were having the wine and cheese or something.
But maybe charcuterie had come just before that and they'd ate it. Then there's nothing there to do. So like they just switched. To be honest, that's our job, isn't it? Yeah, this is what we do. We try and find all handbrake job in novice hurdles, and there's that many of them because obviously everyone's looking for a mark. That's the game.
On a Saturday night, I'm generally sending you 2,500 words on a week that I haven't entirely covered. I mean, not every mate. Horses that have received questionable rides would be included in there, and I can't remember the last time one of those questionable rides I highlighted resulted in any stewards action.
I don't think BHA's got the resources to be looking at their accounts. They're always stretched in terms of like.
I think Wedge is unlucky he's got done, to be honest, because if it happened the next day, he might not have.
I think it's the old spin of the wheel, isn't it? If you check a 6, really, it's like they roll the dice. Do we investigate? They probably roll it in steward's room, right? Check a 6, we'll have a look into this. Oh no, it's a 5. Let's go back to cheese and Shabley. So yeah, the BHA stewards. Well done, BHA stewards. You're doing a fine job. We've got a fun topic to finish the show in a bit. But before that, this is all about the BGC. Safer Gambling Week this week, of course.
I felt safer this week, haven't you?
I felt very safe.
Yeah, I feel like having a big cuddle every time you have a bet.
Yeah, it's what I do. In Safer Gambling Week, I'll have a bet on a race, and if I either break even or win, I give the producer a hug and a cuddle, and I feel safer. This is what it's all about. So Safer Gambling Week, I found it sickening. Before we get onto the BGC, all the racing post fannies, absolute fannies, a lot of them are.
Yes, they are. Yeah, totally.
Copying and pasting the same message on the Twitter timelines and stuff like that about, oh, do this,
Yeah, watch
do
what
that.
you're doing, don't bet.
Yeah. And then they'll fucking put a podcast up like 30 seconds later, like, fucking get on this. 3 points win.
Yeah, it's stunning, isn't it? Absolutely stunning.
These are just morons. I'm sorry, but you are, lad. If you do listen to this product, lads and lasses, of course, you've got Maddie play. You're all fucking morons. Start doing journalism and not serving your marks is my advice to you.
The trouble is, they'll all be independent journalists that wait later.
You'll be all on this show in weekly slots if you do that. So maybe don't do that. Just carry on taking the cash.
David Jennings won't.
BGC, the new boss, Grania.
Yes. Is that how he says?
Grania.
I was saying Granny.
Granny, I know. I presume it's an Irish name. She made a statement, and I know you've plenty to say on this, so I'm giving you the room.
I worry about these sort of positions because she succeeds Michael Dewar in the role. He remains part of the team at BGC, having assumed the role of chairman. Of course he does. He was one of the outliers, like John Mann, Ian Austin, who brought down Corbyn from the inside. So he has to be rewarded. And I think this particular post is something that people can just be slotted into willy-nilly. I don't think government see this as a key post. They see it as a handy post for rewarding good little drones who do their bidding. The Safer Gambling Week started on Monday. Hearst said the BGC was excited about the event, said last year was a huge success, which the industry was keen to build on. 50% of customers had set a deposit limit for the first time in Safer Gambling Week, was the mantra. And the number of customers who were setting maximum stake limits rose by more than 300%. But of course they are increasing because it's now seen as a way to avoid an affordability check. I've done it myself.
Yeah.
I've put limits on that are so far out of my reach. If I hit them, I'll be going bankrupt in a week.
Yep.
But I'm avoiding affordability checks by putting them on. So that is no success story as regards anything, because people aren't daft, and that's why they're putting them. She's had 10 years with Ladbrokes and Corals as a corporate affairs director and leading the government's relationship with government. So she's a lobbyist, basically.
Four big corp, yeah.
Yeah, she says she wants to be louder and prouder about the benefits the BGC members bring to the leisure sector. So basically, she's a mouthpiece for Big Corp. She wants to tap into the customer's voice, but there's nothing saying she's against affordability checks. The only thing she said is that they must be frictionless. So it's another one that's going to sit there and say, suck it up, you fuckers, basically.
Yeah, reading like Andrew John Rhodes' statement this week, who obviously deleted his Twitter because he's a fanny, like the rest of them. He come out, made a statement. Nothing about, it's unfortunate that you can't withdraw your £3,000 because the bookies froze your account because they want you to jump through hoops and show your driving license, car keys, passport, bank statements, women and children and dog, still on the front lawn in front of your house. And until you send them with a water bill and a gas bill, we aren't sending you 3,000. I was distraught this week to see a Jeff Banks post.
They're not usually that bad, like, that you should be distraught.
Yeah, they're not that bad. But anyway, so Jeffrey posted about 3 of his customers that had CCJs. Now, straight away, I just went, I saw absolute red. This is bonkers stuff. Would you plaster it on Twitter? Would you say, oh, by the way, chaps, I've got CCJs? Why would I want cunts in a fucking trading room or a compliance team knowing you've got CCJs or credit problems?
Jeff was bang on the money doing this, and he has consistently fought in favour of punters having privacy and the right to do what they want with their own money since all this came about.
Yeah.
And I mean, if he'd been in Paris in 1939, they'd have still been holding out in 1943. Fair play to the lad. He has tried to stick it to them.
Whatever you think of Banks, and obviously Banks is Marmite in terms of bookmaking, into punters, and same with every bookmaker really that's barred punters, etc. We've had obviously people on against Jeff Banks with the ground thing, and it's Marmite. And at the end of the day, but the one thing that Banks has done for the last few years is
He's been absolutely consistent on this subject.
Absolutely. Isn't that shocking though, Chris? How ridiculous is it that they'll be able to see that you've got maybe CCJs as default from?
Yeah, it's absurd, isn't it? You're talking about having a bet, a recreational spend of your own money. This is the absurdity of it, isn't it? This is the intrusion that the state is having into people's lives. It's utterly irrelevant. Ultimately, it is a leisure spend. It's no different from buying a football season ticket, going on holiday, buying a pint. And it's bizarre. And this is, ideology in play. They don't want people to gamble. That's it. These are prohibitionists. They're not interested in reducing social harm, etc. It's all nonsense. This is a play against gambling to outlaw it. That's the direction of travel.
Totally agree with this. In fact, can we name any other sector in retail stroke public spending? Credit doesn't apply, obviously, right? So, like, in other words, debit card spend where a check like this takes place.
No. Nobody asks, do they? In any other sort of arena of life, that it's irrelevant. You've got the money, you can afford it. That's a matter for you. If you can afford it, you are sold the goods or provided with the service in return for the money. That's it.
To clarify, just in simple terms, a debit card payment is money that the user is giving to the operator to have a bet with that is not credit. It doesn't matter if he took a bank loan, that's his problem. That's personal. The judge this week that ruled in favour that was taking Bet365 to court for doing over $1 million in, the judges ruled about personal responsibility and said, no, Bet365 have done nothing wrong. So maybe that might be a game changer. Maybe that's a little bit of a game changer in legal terms. Hoping the likes of Harry Stewart Moore, people like that. I'm hoping there'll be some legal recompense for punters here down the line, because these bookmakers have behaved in a manner that is absolutely disgraceful. It's mafia-like. It's black market-like. They're regulated bookmakers that are behaving like black market bookmakers. And Andrew John Rhodes and the Gambling Commission do not recognise any of this shit. They don't even say, oh, we're concerned about this shit. They don't even say anything on it. They just let it carry on. It's absolutely bonkers.
It's cartelous behaviour, isn't it? You've seen it with the airlines, with the freight the freight cartels, all of whom have been subject to legal challenge eventually, because they're acting like a cartel, aren't they? They're acting unilaterally in denying people their rights to spend their money. And I think a legal challenge of some sort is inevitable at some point.
We feel all your frustrations. Everything punters send to us, it's a very frustrating time for all regards to the industry, and it's only going to get more difficult when you've got the likes of Matt Zarb-Cousin, for example, Mr. Greyhound genocide advocate now. He's in some pies, this fellow, in ties with Derek Webb, etc.
He's speaking out against Gaza, but he's perfectly happy to go to war on the grounds.
Yeah, the poor ground industry that's got battered into submission over the last 20 years and has been heavily on the downgrade receives another final nail in the coffin as Matt Zarb-Cousin, Gamban, start their crusade against the cruel sport of greyhound racing. Do you know what I think this is? I think it's because he knows he can't come for horse racing, because horse racing gives him far too much kickback. Right, and that's the thing. When they denounce horse racing as a harmful product, in terms of animal cruelty and gambling and people's lives, gambling harm, they get so much kickback. They're getting fed up with it.
The argument.
No, they can't win the argument. So what's he do now? Right, greyhound genocide advocate. Jesus fucking Christ! Who is this guy being funded by? Chris Fawcett's been on. And he said they're on Blue Sky, of course. No plans to go after horse racing. He did have a caveat with that. He says, unless the big corporations decide to entice people with slots play and stuff against horse racing bettors.
He'll ride into battle like the Lone Ranger then, really.
What an absolute self-entitled twat.
He's an adult baby, isn't he? He's weaponised failure. The man is a failure. Yeah, the man's a failure.
Before this show, he was going to come on it, James Noyes. But after seeing his comments to Chris, and I thought, who the fucking hell are you? I'm not having a bar, are you? An idiot, a paid idiot, another funded idiot that will go after a crusade. Why? Because someone is paying him to do.
Yeah, he's an embarrassment, isn't he? Imagine if you were related to him, you'd be ashamed, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
God, what kind of character? Adult baby that's kind of weaponised and monetised his own personal failings. Have some shame and shut the fuck up and get on with your life. But no, he's turned his character flaw into an income stream, and that's disgusting, isn't it? I'm all for a redemption arc, people, hitting rock bottom and making, but shut the fuck up about it now.
Definitely. So blatant. They don't succeed in one department, so then they have to go for another. It's the old pattern of the grift. If they fail in one department, right, let's go for this department. All of a sudden, they smelt the statutory levy and all the gambling NHS grifters, oh, yes, we've got our hands out. We'll help gambling addicts. No gambling addicts get help. None. They just don't. Why? Because gambling addicts want to bet. That's the reason why they're gambling addicts. There hasn't been a cure in my lifetime. There might be. But certainly there isn't now. It's just a case of whether they want to do it like alcoholics. You can quit drink for 20, 30 years and all of a sudden that's it. Bang, gone. Downed a bottle of whiskey. And that's how it is, isn't it? It's a brain thing. It's a mental thing. Going on about the Greyhound game, another disgraceful thing, Chris. Another London track closing. Crayford.
It's in Kent, though, as we said. It's not London track, is it? We had this argument. Yeah, I mean, it is disgraceful that the capital city in Greater London, very shortly won't have a Greyhound track. But but people like that, like Zarb-Cousins, Zarb-Cousins are punching down, aren't they? It's a sport in terminal decline in this country. I think 5 years and it's done.
Yeah, Romford's the only London track left, Chris.
Yeah, and listen, Essex, really, not really London, is it? But yeah, I get your point. But it's appalling, isn't it? They're punching down on a sport that's just really on its knees and has been on its knees for years, really.
It's so sad because you used to be Wimbledon back in the day, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I mean, Wimbledon. I mean, listen, none of these tracks were, flourished, but ultimately they're worth more. The land's worth more for building houses, isn't it? And and people, the antis have made racing and greyhound racing a kind of a toxic sport. It's not, people's default position now. They assume it's cruel, don't they? That's greyhound racing is cruel. National hunt racing, that's cruel. And unfortunately, I think you can't arrest the decline now. It's terminal.
Yeah, once you sully the word betting and once you get media coverage that gives it constant bad coverage on animal deaths that within the sport or like betting has ruined people's lives, there's only so many years you need to do that before a generation is affected. And there we are. This is the state we're in. And I'm afraid some won't want to hear it, but we're in terminal decline. Personally, I don't think it can be stopped. I hope I'm wrong. You'll always live to hope. It's hope that kills you, but I think we're in terminal decline, and I think that's caused by big corp, greedy big corp. I hate them for it. I hate them for what they're doing. I hate them for what they've done. I really do. I've spent my life in this game, John, like yourself. My entire life I've devoted to it, and it feels like a waste because it's going to come to an end. Not because of me or like, that's it, I've walked away. And there are people walking away. We get messages. You sent me that heartfelt message the other night from a punter that got in touch with you. Lifelong punter, love racing, and he's just lost enthusiasm for everything. And it's so sad. The stuff we read, we don't want to be downbeat here, but Jesus. So we're going to finish the show on a high note. Like we always do. John put a very good question on his thread. What's your most embarrassing food favourite? Yes, there's some really bad shit posted on this. I've turned to a ghost reading some of this shit that people eat.
Who's the but the Tommy South on a Sunday dinner?
Here we go, Matthew Forth, great listener though. I'm not going to beat him up on this, but I am going to beat him up. Tomato sauce on a Sunday roast. He gets a look of disgust, he says, but there's nothing finer.
He's lucky he only gets a look at disgust. I would take him outside and put the dogs on him.
Yeah, Chris, you cannot get to that level. Tomato sauce on a Sunday roast.
No, absolutely not. My secret food shame is drinking evaporated milk out the tin.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what they did in war.
Yeah, I love evaporated milk, and I will chug that out the tin. I won't
That's
even
what
bother opening the tin.
that
Just
that
punch a hole in it.
that's
Oh,
what soldiers did in World War Two.
Yeah, well, we're getting back into the trenches now, aren't we? So yeah, I love it. Evaporated milk,
Yeah,
brilliant
yeah.
stuff.
Some more fabulous examples of listeners' embarrassing foods is Bill Carson has been on. He says Cornish pasty on a barm. What the fuck is a barm, Bill? I know you've put brown sauce with it, but it's a fucking bread cake. There's nothing else.
It's a pasty sandwich at the end of the day, isn't it? I mean, Jesus God.
But listen, we've had this debate before on the show. Fucking barm. What is a barm?
Manchester.
You've changed the M to an N. It's a barn. Now it's a bread cake, man. It's a fucking big bread cake. That's what it is. You've got to get with it. Get with the times. It's a bread cake. And what do you call them down your way, Chris?
Bread rolls, generally. That's what we call
Cheese
them.
roll, please.
Yeah,
Cheese roll.
we don't have sort of quaint northern terms for staple foods. It's a bread roll, and that's what it's called. And
Yeah.
anything else is a corruption.
No, bread cake all the way. Samuel the cat's been on, and he said food options, and these are his go-tos: cheap savoury foods, spam fritters, faggots,
I
Yeah.
like faggots.
Findus
Yeah.
minced beef pancakes, sweet options, Red Bull, strawberry laces, and Kinder Bueno.
Fucking hell.
You can just see Sam the cat on a racing afternoon.
He's getting
it's-
too many A numbers, isn't he?
Fucking Red Bull, strawberry laces, and Kinder Bueno.
He's got to sleep about 3 a.m., isn't he?
That's lamb pies, isn't it?
Oh, fucking hell.
Good one, that one.
Like doing half an ounce of speed before you got.
Yeah, an healthy one here from Peter Bell. Baked kale and a bit of olive oil, salt,
Oh,
pepper,
he
chili
fuck off
flakes,
with this.
and a bit
Yeah,
of
oh,
grilled
that's
cheese.
middle class rubbish, that is, isn't it?
Jesus Christ.
Fuck off, Peter. We will eat shit on this show. Bert Doncaster says, still love a cheese and jam sandwich. The fuck?
Oh, you know, you can get away with that, can't you? Cause you can
Really?
have, yeah, you have like you can have a baguette with melted brie
Brie-
and red currant jelly or something.
Yeah, brie and cranberry is it's not quite jam, but it's nearly there, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
nearly there.
So, John, what is your embarrassing? Well, no. I mean, I suppose, yeah, it can be embarrassing, but what is your
You'll know this one, the old banana omelette.
banana omelette? Producer saying no to that.
Yeah.
It's an absolute no. Shaking her head in despair. Having said that, the producer's favourite is coleslaw on toast.
Oh my Christ.
Yeah,
No.
she's bad as well. Mine would be, and this is my go-to quite often, is a bacon and tuna mayo sandwich.
Oh, no, you can get away with that, really, can't you? Because bacon bits, crispy, on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You don't have like pink bacon. You have
No, I wouldn't have
Well-
it sizzling. No.
no. You have well done bacon and tuna mayo on there.
Yeah, it's sort of a bastardisation of a Greg's tuna crunch, isn't it? Really, something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
But that's mine. So just before coming to the final question, I just want to promote, if you don't subscribe to us on Patreon, I suggest you do, because we've got a nice funny show coming up soon. It's the Bar Stewards Xmas Cookery Show, and we also answer your racing questions on there on Midweek Madness. We do a show a month at the very minimum on Midweek Madness. Expert cooks John and Nick are going to take you through how to cook lots of different meats and stuff at Christmas. I mean, you can't beat this. It's like Farmhouse Kitchen. Can't buy this. You're not going to get Motter's Head and fucking Dave Yates telling you this, are you?
Absolutely not.
So there you go. All John and Nick Davis's expertise. Me and Chris will be also standing by to criticise their dishes, etc. I'm sure. So that'll be a fun show to do coming up. Right, so final question. Len's been on. He says, fuck embarrassing food favourites. What will be the worst food you've ever eaten and where that actually costs plenty? Chris, can you remember any like restaurant that you went to, like that was like
Yes.
plenty and was
Yeah.
fucking shit?
Yeah, there is. I forget the name of it. There is a Russian restaurant in Knightsbridge, which
I knew you'd say something like this.
yeah, which Jay Rayner, yeah, a Russian restaurant in Knightsbridge, which Jay Rayner recommended in his Guardian column as sort of the authentic taste of Russia, with sort of borscht burgers and sauerkraut and all that, and it was the foulest garbage you've ever tasted. they come out with this dish which was just basically a washed lettuce in a massive metal colander and plonked it on the table. It was absolutely revolting. And I mean revolting. It wasn't just, oh, I don't actually like the taste of it. It was horrible. It just uncooked vegetables, raddled bits of old meat, vile. So whether it's the authentic taste of Russia or not, I've no idea. But if it is, Russia can go and fuck itself.
John, you like a dabble sometimes. You do like to spin the wheel in terms of restaurants.
I think the worst expensive meal I had was at the Cleveland Ton Town, probably in the early 90s. It was like a pre-wedding dinner we'd gone up there for my cousin. My God, it was foul. The main course was supposed to be this duck thing, and I'll swear to my dying day it was more like Cocker Spaniel than duck. Absolutely vile. Stringy and tough, and it cost plenty. I think even then it was about 75 quid per head, which was a bit savage in the 90s.
Myself, I can't remember like anything that I've had that's vile that's been expensive. But the one thing I would say, the food review, the Ivy that everyone seems to rave about, like I think that's horrific value for money.
Yeah.
I think it's like 6.8 to 7.2 out of 10 food at 10 out of 10 prices. You ain't getting out of there as a party of four and spending less than 400 quid. It's okay. It's like the name, Ivy. Fuck off. It's bollocks. No, it's a place I would never go again, ever. Even if someone said, oh, I'll take you and pay, I'd say, no, pick somewhere else. You'll get better value. So that. Great show, chaps. I really enjoyed doing that with you too. And next weekend's show is going to be equally as funny, if not better, because we're doing a racing Christmas gifts guide. Yes, folks, it's that time of year where you have to see people you don't want to see and maybe have to give them a present or two. And we've got a racing Christmas gift guide from all our bar stewards that we think would make a great addition to anyone's sack at Christmas time. So,
A piercing.
yeah, you've got to tune in next week because it'll be a belter. Of course, with the likes of Chris and John appraising these gifts, I'm sure you'll have a laugh or two, which is much needed in these times of woes. That's all from us. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.